Hello. It's recording. Okay, so this is it. This is the grand finale. The conclusion of TE448 section. I still don't even know our section. Section 4 of spring semester 2014 at Michigan State. This is for Joseph Harris. It's for you. Um, so I just wanted to. Well, I think I'll begin with just thanks for a great semester. Thank you for being so open um, and just ready to get us engaged with the content that we were learning and reading about, and just your willingness. And I think I can definitely appreciate your passion and your the sense that you we as teachers need this, and you understand that this is extremely important, especially as future teachers, to be able to talk about all the different topics that we have in this diversity class. And so yeah, just thank you so much for a great school year semester, and just keep it up. I'm honored to have taken this class. Very privileged, white privileged person taking this class. So thank you very much, and I guess I'll just start talking about this final, and just sort of, I think I'll just start with how amazed I am at the point that I'm at right now. In the beginning of the semester, I didn't know exactly what to expect. I just thought that it was just TE348, just extended edition, talking about books and stuff like that. Never in my mind would I have thought that I would end this class on just such an empowered note, uh, way that I have, and I'm extremely thankful for that, because I'm able to see my own progress, I think, throughout this entire semester. In the beginning, I had didn't know really how much I can say in class, or I don't think I really talked much, because it's just like, oh, still testing the waters, like, I remember I was like, oh my gosh, first day of class, this is sweet, my professor's gonna be awesome, or he is awesome, just, very open. It's small classroom, so there will be a lot of time to talk, which can be a good and bad thing, and sometimes for me, sometimes I like to talk too much, sometimes I felt like I wasn't going to be able to say things, but by the end of the semester, I just realized the benefit of having a smaller classroom, and I think creating that safe space for me, at least. I know we talked about creating safe spaces. That's not true for everyone, so at least I was very comfortable being in this classroom and being able to talk about different topics, even though I would say that there were times where it was difficult for me to um, maybe want to share, because I was worried about what the other girls, or perhaps what you would have to say in response to, maybe the way I was raised, or my beliefs and values, and how I guess it can be countercultural in a lot of ways, that society is telling us how to live and stuff like that. And just my foundation, just how I've been raised, I think was challenged sometimes, and it does challenge me. And that is sort of like a concern in the future, am I going to allow myself to talk to students about, any sort of topics that they bring up, or that I'll bring up, or am I going to let Patricia get in the way of teaching them? Because I think sometimes as teachers we have to set aside our beliefs, our values, and just, bring the material to the kids, and let the students absorb the information, and then do whatever they want with it. And I think it's important for me, and that I've realized through the semester, that um, you know that not everyone might believe what I believe, and that's okay. And I just have to be able to, still diplomatically talk to students about it, and just be able to have those conversations. So, um, just just so much I want to say, but I know you probably just don't even want to listen to me anymore with all my extended videos and um, such things. But I mean, I don't even know where to start. Beginning of the semester, we talked about demographics and the census, and how many people are white and or identify themselves as white, and is English the American language, or is that the national language? Is MSU diverse? And that first class has stuck with me throughout the rest of the semester, and now I can see, that first day where we had those questions, what what are troubled areas, or what kind of problems are there in society, or are there stereotypes, do they still exist? Are they, um, do they exist? Uh, how diverse is MSU? What does diversity mean? And I think by the end of the semester, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I have all the answers now. So that was one, just props to you on having the best. That was, I think, a great intro. And just seeing, how sometimes clueless students can be in, the world around them. So I appreciated that. Um, Voice and authenticity, that was something that was, I think, important throughout the entire semester, and I never even thought about it until talking about it in class. And, who has the right to tell a story? Who has the right to write a book? Bucking the Sarge, could I write that, never having lived in Detroit my entire, like, ever? I've never even been there for more than like 3 days. Could I write a book about that and use vernacular and terms that's not part of my everyday life, or that I have no experience with? Like, no, I don't think that would happen, and that wouldn't be a successful book because it's not authentic. And just yeah, and then in the house you pass on the way, it talked about this sort of coming of age story, and just how this girl sort of didn't know where, maybe her own identity, and was trying to figure things out. But that was set, southern part of the U.S., and that was authentic too, I think, in terms of the author. And this entire time you were talking about, just, is it authentic? Who has the right to tell these stories? Has this author, is this author um, Hispanic or of Latino background? Is this author uh, a representative of the LGBTQ community? Um, did I forget her name now, but did the author of Naomi Leon, has she actually experienced, the carnivals or the radish festival at the end or something, or did she totally make it up, which wouldn't be um, good for students to connect with that are of Hispanic or Latino descent. So that was extremely important, I think, throughout the semester, and something that I've never thought about. Who can write these stories? Um, who has the right? And when are we more engaged in stories that are authentic and, um, with the best of intentions, that have a lot of research, or that person does represent that community? Or would I prefer to listen to someone who made up a story because they wanted to talk about Asian immigration into the U.S. and just make another story? Like, no, I want to hear, authentic, and read about that, because as me being as a, future teacher, reading about that, I want it to be authentic, but in the context that I want my students, my future students, to be able to read this and identify with it, because I think there's an extremely important component of authenticity that allows people to identify themselves to these stories and connect with it in a way that, being the insider wouldn't let you. And that brings me to my next point, is just being the insider or outsider in that whole debate we had. And who has the right to tell this story? And from one of the articles, it said, you have to sit at my table at dinner and eat with me in order to write about me. And I know we talked about that, like, you know, be authentic, have the conversations with these people, eat at their table, live a day in their life, or weeks or months, whatever, to be that insider and know what it's like, and to be able to tell that story. uh, Stereotyping, that was a huge component of our semester, in the absolute true diary of a part-time Indian. And what it means, what's lost when we think of groups, or what's gained. We I think that was a huge, that was important for me, because I remember, we watched The Real Indian, um that like documentary, and we talked about, or learned about, how Native Americans are viewed as, um, regalia. They're just, or costumes and beads and tobacco, and they're drunks. And there's all these stereotypes, but then you don't realize that people actually, that there are Native Americans that are more than that, and that they're not to just be stereotyped like that. And you know, we talked about, or at least I had a personal experience where I saw another documentary once on this artist in the Native American Museum that's in Washington, D.C., and he he was the display, and it said, I think the title was just Native American in Today's World, or Native Americans Aren't Dead, something along those lines. And he was just laying there, walking around in this little exhibit that he had, so that viewers, people walking by through the museum would see, that Native Americans don't just walk around in like sackcloths, or animal skins and stuff like that, and have feathers in their hair, and the fake beads that we learned about in class. That's not, that's the stereotypical Native American, but they dress just like us, which I was super pleased that I went to a powwow for my cultural gap, which allowed me to, you know, sort of be that insider. I went to an event, to this powwow, but I chose to talk to people, to women that were there, to these girls, and ask them about the dances that they were performing, and the significance, and what this means, and what the regalia means, the different colors, whether they had like these tobacco tin cans, like foils on them, or feathers or beads, what all of those things meant and were symbolic. And then also learning that, oh, they live somewhere near Battle Creek, and just go to school and are applying for colleges as well and stuff. And that was important. I was being that insider, and that was awesome. We also talked about the religion and diversity, which I was sort of worried that this was going to be a topic that, a day in class where I wouldn't share as much, because I felt like I could identify with the Takrakoras, and just sort of, like, do you identify yourself as being a religious person? Does that define, who you are, or is there more to just you than a religion that you practice and participate in? So that was I think an interesting time of, stereotyping around faith and belonging, and knowing where that is. So that definitely made me think about, how do I identify myself? Am I embarrassed to tell people that I'm Catholic, and that I love it? I have like my my Mary over here, and my divine, oh, can't see it, my little like saint cards, holy cards. Am I embarrassed about that? Would I share that or not? And I don't know, just being able to read this book allowed me to connect with it, and just think back, in, will my students be able to express their religious, opinions, and what they believe in, and how they identify themselves within religion, or will it be like a taboo subject where it can't be talked about? And I'd like to encourage myself, and talk about it, talk about different religions, and people that don't believe in any sort of religion, talk about it. People with disabilities, that was a huge talk. I absolutely loved the TED Talks, especially the women that had just this beautiful like model, and she had prosthetic legs that you couldn't even tell were fake, and just that whole the whole idea, like I had to check myself for sure during that class period, and reading Jerk California, and when we watched like the poetry slam of the guy that was you know so passionate and had so much to say, but he wasn't gonna let his stuttering stop him. And this was definitely one of the times where I was like, you know, oh my gosh, I do this. I'm that person that, sees a disability before I see a person. And once I realized that, I was pretty mad at myself. And at the same time, I don't want to beat myself down because I think it's pretty human to see flaws, uh, like physical things that aren't in check. If someone has a amputated arm or a leg, that's something that you notice. But it's, do you see that person as, oh, that disabled person, or do you see them, you know, as a person that happened to be in an accident or something, and whatever, they don't have a leg. I have a family friend that lost a leg in a motorcycle accident, and he does so many things, that I forget, I don't think about him as being that disabled guy with that leg. Even though sometimes I do, I still fall into that trap like, oh my gosh, he just ran like his stinking like 15th marathon while I'm sitting here with two good legs, not running. Um, so there are times, but this was definitely a time in class that challenged me to think about people with disabilities and just the way I approach them. Just because someone might be handicapped doesn't mean that they're mentally handicapped as well. I don't have to, if someone's sitting in a wheelchair, I don't have to be like, "Hi, my name is Patricia." Slow things down and get really loud, because I think a lot of people do that, and check myself to make sure that I don't do that. People that have physical disability don't have mental disabilities. Um, so yeah, that was definitely a time where in class that encouraged me to grow and sort of realize that I need to check myself with that. Um, Another tough time for me in class, or that I was sort of eager about, was the LGBTQ day, and just how when we read Openly Straight, um, this is a extremely touchy subject for me because of my religious identity. So it definitely challenged me because you know, I appreciate and love all people. Then it's hard when religion sort of talks differently and approaches things differently, and then just how society, then later blows it up to a huge scale, saying Catholics hate, gay people or lesbians or something, and you're a bigot and stuff, and that's not true. It's just, but it's hard to still stand for what I believe in, but explain to people that I don't hate you because you have a different attraction than me, and that's something that I've been struggling with, because my views don't exactly agree with my parents' views, and just things that they've never been exposed to, where I have this acceptance, whereas it's difficult for my parents to have that. So I was worried, you know, will will yeah, will classmates, will you think that, I'm so old school, or that I'm so closed-minded and that I'll never be able to talk about this. But reading the book, talking about it, and this is actually one of the times that I chose, I made myself um, go into my uncomfortable space, or something, where I'm not familiar with. So I went to an LGBTQ meeting, sort of just like a social event where they had Tim Hortons. That was delicious. But I did that on purpose to put myself into, you know, eat at eat at their table, go to this community, and interact with these people, because they're just human. They're not going to eat me alive or anything. And I think I was sort of, anxious. Will they know that I'm not, um, you know, that I'm straight and stuff like that, will that, you know, will I be viewed as the other and just have that strong sense? So that was a time where I definitely grew in the class, and another time where I had to check myself and how I approach this topic, and how will I approach it in my future classroom? Will I never have books about you know, non-heterosexual couples, or am I going to be that teacher that, doesn't have any books about sex at all, or genders? And it's challenged me because I want to be that teacher that every student can come to, and can lean on me to be a support and encouragement to them, whether they are dealing with, you know, telling their parents that they're gay, or, and this relates to anything, telling their parents that, me not necessarily telling their parents, but, helping them deal with things. I want to be that teacher. So that was an important time for me where I was challenged in the class. And then whiteness. Oh, good old whiteness. Um, I think this is one of those times where it's like, yeah, you need to remember, white privilege and how this exists, and that racism still exists today, and just that people, you know, just the way that, the privileges that I have that I don't even realize that I have sometimes, or even something like talking about, being able to talk about whatever I want in class without ever having to feel like, oh, I represent a group, versus being in a class with a few students that represent different nationalities, um, or different, like Native American, or African American, or Latino, that, you know, if they're the only student in that class, then they're automatically viewed as, oh, how does he or she respond to this? Because that must mean that that's how the entire Native American, or Latino, or African American population must respond. Like, it is, you know, hard to think about these things that I've never thought about, and just how spaces are comfortable for me that might not be for others, because of my skin color, because of, where I come from, or how my family was raised, or something. Yeah, it's interesting to talk about, just, what color, how much a color can change things, and that's challenged me to think about, in the future, as a teacher, am I going to be that one horrible example of a teacher that, asks the one African American student in my class, like, oh, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about, the KKK, as the most extreme example? That happens in classrooms today, and I'm not going to be that teacher that signals someone out because of their color, while they may have no experience with, something that we're talking about in class. So that's just something that, I'm very aware of. Um, okay, I'm doing on time. Then we talked about Latino Americans and becoming Naomi Leon, and the use of satire and stereotypes, to create narrative. That was a huge portion. I thought that was extremely creative to use these satires, but it was challenging, because when we watched it in class, there were some parts I wanted to laugh at. When it was talking about the, nigger family, and see, even just the way I say that, I am worried about how my audience, how someone that's maybe African American will respond to me saying it, talking to this right now. Um, but just watching that, there were some parts that I thought were funny, but I didn't want to laugh in class, because I didn't want to, be viewed as some sort of arrogant white person that's laughing at, uh, you know, racial, um, innuendos and things like that. But I think it's important, and it's a useful way to present this information that maybe otherwise you couldn't present in class. And so that was just like the American-born Chinese and the whole like model minority. We watched that video at of the two joggers running, and the guy's like, "Oh, where are you from?" Because this woman looks Asian, and she's like, "I'm from San Francisco. Where are you from?" He's like, "No, no, where are you from?" She's like, "Oh, I'm from, whatever." Then list a country like China or something like that. And I just thought that's like the best example of how, um, you know, I don't know, just how we can be so blinded by visual, by color, by looks, and just automatically stereotype and maybe think nothing of it and laugh at things like that. But in reality, there's so much in-depth, struggles that go with it. In, American-born Chinese author uses satire and makes the characters as Asian-looking as possible to um, to uh, to make a point, that these stereotypes are not, they're not, they're not gone. They still exist today. They're still present in today's world. And yeah. So that, sorry, I just had an incoming call. So just the different resources that we can use in our future classrooms, I think is tremendous. Like, I've learned so much in this class by the different resources we can use. TED Talks, those are a favorite, and I, start a lot of them in the YouTube videos, the poetry slams, the documentaries like The Real Engine, just all these different ways, the activities we've done in class, our beans, the bean exercise, super simple things like that, but they're powerful. They have an impact in how I thought. Started this class, we interviewed each other and asked, uh, we had the questions of what is diversity, what's the language of the U.S., is MSU diverse? All those things were sort of like the rock foundation that we started to um, that we um, can grow off of. And so I think it's um, just the different resources we have used in this class and that you have presented us with was just wonderful, because we were able to, sorry about that, I'm like super distracted, because that allows me to, even like using things online, having us go online during class and fill out a Google Doc of what we thought about books or what we think about these articles that we have read, just being using different mediums in the classroom is extremely beneficial. And by doing that in our classroom, that's giving me ways and ideas of how to use this in my future classrooms, and how I can incorporate YouTube videos, TED Talks, Google Docs. How can I incorporate all these different things into my future classroom? And that's something that I'm extremely happy about and thankful that we've had the chance to do that, um, and been exposed to that. And last but not least, we talked about sexual abuse and the tough topics. And it is my turn to write on the article, or to make a video about the articles, and talk about Sold. And that was a really difficult thing to read as a woman. And but then reading the articles as well, I saw all these different problems that teachers may face in their classrooms. Students that have, a parent or parents that are incarcerated, a parent that's at war, um, a child's parents or family member that just died, children that don't have food at home, that don't have a safe place to go back to after school, that come to school and are hungry and don't have the basic things to function and to be able to do well in class. There were so many things that I learned through the last two articles, going with Sold, and just all the other articles, that there's so many different ways that students will be looking up to me as a teacher, and I question myself, will I be prepared as a teacher to tackle these tough subjects, or and possibly help save some students and help them in the best way that I can, and be that influence. One of my examples in the article was being where a student said that he would have been part of the Columbine, he would have been a Columbine shooter if it wasn't for a teacher that stepped in and gave him hope and talked to him and inspired him to change his ways and his lifestyle. Am I going to be that teacher that puts aside my discomforts of bringing these topics up in classrooms and bringing them to administration and talking to parents and explaining why I'm talking about these things? Or will I, just be passive and never bring these things up because I don't want to ruin the innocence of these children and, let them figure things out on their own? Beginning of the semester, I think I was probably that passive teacher, but at the end of the semester, I can, proudly say that I don't have any intention of being that teacher that won't say anything, that won't bring up tough topics. And I've learned from the best from you, Joseph. Um, there are ways you can talk about any topic as long as you do the front work. You prepare the classroom. You can't just jump off and do these intense things right away. You have to build this relationship with your students and kind of prep them into times that you can talk to them about different topics. And I think because of this class, I'm able to talk about diversity and diverse topics of religion, sex, gender, disability, ethnicities, all these different things, because we were able to have these discussions, and I was able to be given this model of how that can be done in a classroom, and just empowering me, especially I think sometimes, even as a woman, empowering me to step up and not be that shy, timid female teacher that doesn't want to get, doesn't want to upset any parents, or won't ever challenge administration. I want to be that teacher that brings books in that are banned. Well, at least get approval to do it, and kind of be that rebel teacher that students need today. Students need teachers that can present books in their classrooms that can connect to different students, students that have two moms, students that have disabilities, students that of different religious backgrounds. Our students need this, and they deserve books to connect to and see that they are represented in different books. So I just don't even know what else. I just love this class so much. I hope you can physically see that, and just know that I am recommending this class to like all of my friends. They're probably so sick of me saying it, but I'm just so fortunate to have taken this classroom and see my own, not just like improvement, but see uh, my own growth, seeing where I was mentally in my own personal, biography of who I am, especially I think as a future teacher, has drastically changed from the first day to to this last day, um, and it's inspiring to see that however many weeks, 16 or whatever weeks we had together, and I'm walking away with so many resources, books, just all these fresh ideas, and just this support from different students and from my instructors that that I wouldn't have had if I didn't take this class. And I really hope this class becomes mandatory for everyone because, you know, these students, they need us. They need teachers that are willing to talk about diverse subjects and not be bashful and not be passive about them. Just bring things up as they are and encourage students to have these discussions with each other and become world citizens, not just identify as one thing and one color and one religion. And you know, there's a lot of different ways that people around you can shape you and build you up and encourage you. And that's something that I look back in my own life and see, you know, I went to a white private school that, you know, you had to pay tons of tuition for. Thankfully I got scholarships, but there was, you know, no diversity in any sense. Color, you could automatically tell and stereotype the students that were not uh, the students that should have been in that school because of their color or religion. It was a private Catholic school, you know. Um, Everyone was Catholic. I was never challenged to defend my faith and to stand up for it because everyone just, you know, kind of believed the same things, even though maybe I think I showed it a little bit more. Um, but, uh, you know, I just had all white friends. No friends were atheist or of different colors or from different nationalities. Although we did have exchange students, but that's sort of different. But coming to MSU, I now after this class realize the diverse people that are here, but not necessarily that MSU is diverse. And by doing the cultural gaps, I can challenge myself as a student at MSU now to go out into these unknown spaces and talk to people that aren't me. You know, branch out, have different friends, and I do, and I have friends of different colors and religions. Um, but just to challenge myself to do that more and to take initiative of these amazing human beings that walk around campus. You know, be that person that starts talking to some random person behind you in the line at, you know, the international station, international building, cafe, and um, go to different religious services to challenge myself as a Christian and to understand what other people believe and focus on similarities versus differences. Um, so yeah, just the progress that I see within myself and my own reflection is extremely important and useful. And if it wasn't for this class, I would have still been, you know, that person that brings up a book like, what's a typical book students read in school? I don't even know. Holes. Am I going to be that student or that teacher that just reads this classic book? Or am I going to bring books like Sold or Takla Chorus or ABC or ABC or Bucking the Sarge? You know, am I going to be that teacher? And I like to proudly say that I want to be that teacher, and I hope that I will continue to challenge myself because this class has challenged me to think in so many different ways, um, and just appreciate the differences that are out there and just be that awesome teacher that every child deserves and will talk about and remember for, you know, the rest of their lives. So thank you, Joseph, so much. Hopefully you're still with me, haven't fallen asleep. Thank you so much for a great semester. I look forward to possibly taking future classes with you, and just thank you for being that teacher that isn't afraid to talk about these subjects with us, with your students, and to have real discussions and to challenge and for challenging us to think differently. You know, get out of our comfort bubbles because I need that in order for me to grow, to move on anywhere in life, I need to be challenged and to look, look at different things in different lenses. So thank you very much, just for your willingness. I know you've probably taught like 15 of these classes, but just know that I do appreciate it, and that this this class was definitely worthwhile and a positive experience that I am able to take with me, going on my furthering my education at MSU before I graduate next year. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. But thank you so much, and know that I really appreciate you as a teacher and a mentor in many ways, and hopefully we'll stay in contact. So thank you very much, and cheers to TE448 and being a future teacher. So thank you. Bye.